Welcome, everyone, to Dig on America, a socio-political podcast where every week we give you the dig on U.S. history, politics, policy, and sometimes pop culture, and discuss how they affect social issues today. DOA is an independent media supported by listeners, but probably also a deep state propaganda arm funded by George Soros, the Clinton Foundation, Jay-Z, and
Carmelo Anthony,
the Red Guardian. Welcome in, everyone, to Dig on America, the podcast. We are a socio-political podcast. We talk about history, we talk about politics, we talk about pop culture, and today we are going to talk a little bit with you, our loving listener, about some of the biases in film and TV, and we have a couple of great guests to do that. But before I do that, let me introduce the greatest producer in his room, Michelangelo Famiglie. What's up, Doc?
I don't have a room. I have an office. I'm a professional. I make money in here. This isn't a room anymore. This isn't a room anymore. This is an office. I make cash
in the República Dominicana.
República Dominicana. That's my fucking
Thank you,
favorite
Cory
word.
Booker.
Soy el Blacko.
My favorite line ever.
That's what got me onto this stage to get made fun of by Dutch.
It was the one line,
Cory Booker.
The one line that will never be forgotten. In fact, it's funny. Like I was listening to some of our old. Somehow I got into the car and I think I butt touched something on Spotify and it started playing an episode of Voice from the Underground with TJ from like a year and a half ago, early COVID. And so I listened and I was like, and I remember TJ said, I guess this was like super early COVID, right? You know, he works at Costco. So he was talking about how mean people were. And he was like, man, I guess we're just have to wait this out for like the next, 3 to 4 weeks. I'm like, oh, you shit. Lying fuck. It's so we do not.
He was only off by a factor of 50.
And still not on. So hello, TJ. We love you.
Hi, TJ.
With us
What's
today.
What's up,
TJ? And Kyle knows TJ. He's been on with him before. But with us today is a couple of returning guests, actually. First and foremost, we have actor and filmmaker, the prestigious Kyle D for Dr. Hester. What's happening, Kyle Hester? What's going on, buddy?
I'll take that. I'll take the doctor.
Dr.
That's all good. Hey, thanks for having me on. I mean, I'm sure I completely embarrassed myself last time. So, the fact that you're having me on again, I'm pretty impressed. So I just wanted to say thank you for having me on.
Hey, at least you don't have a dog barking in your background like our, the professional producer that we have.
My dog is not a professional, clearly.
But Kyle, this is your first time on the new rebranded show. You were on Voice from the Underground, I think twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you might have like a Voice from the Underground coffee cup or something floating around the house that you use to shit in.
Absolutely do. I absolutely do. I use it. I do have it. So it's like No, I actually put coffee in it. I use it for coffee. I drink the coffee out of it because I'm a coffee guy.
Nice.
So damn it, I should have.
Is that what you do with your mugs, Dutch?
Yes.
You can't do that.
They are made of porcelain.
Oh no.
So, therefore,
they don't drill the second hole. That's the first problem.
I don't understand why it doesn't come out.
The plumbing is all bad with this little tiny turlet.
Also returning to the show, we wanted a movie review guy on, and so our first thought, of course, is let's call her for an Imran. But then we said, you know what? We're gonna go to the B team today. We're going with our boy Andrew. Mecca, Mr. Ben Shapiro Jr. himself, and Andrew Davis. What's up, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. And that's insulting to Ben, which maybe you guys want to do. So
yeah, gotcha, Ben.
Ben's career.
I'm so good to you guys.
Suck on that, Ben.
Tell that to your doctor wife.
Your dry wife.
Because he refuses to get a woman wet because it's disgusting. That's a real quote from Ben Shapiro.
Oh, that's.
I know it well. I know it well.
I don't want to be the guy who gets his wife wet because it's disgusting. Good for you.
Not for her. That's a sign she's thoroughly enjoying herself.
So you would kind of guess that she's not, Mr. Shapiro. I can't say anything bad about him. That makes me an anti-Semite if I talk bad about Ben Shapiro. I forgot. And interestingly, we're going to talk about anti-Semitism real briefly here in a minute. And we will get to our topic. No Haas today. Haas is in Lake how do they say it? Sheboygan?
Sheboygan?
Lake Sheboygan.
Sheboygan.
What was that?
All 15 of the Chicago listeners are like, yeah, Sheboygan. Everyone else is like, what the fuck?
What was that? What's his Svengoolie used to say? Berwyn. But so no Big House today, no Humidor. So probably a little bit of a shorter program today. But we're going to talk a little bit about the history of film. And obviously we have two film guys here. But before we get to that, we're going to real quick shotgun through a couple of current event topics, 3 of them to be specific. So, oh yeah, you know what? Start with that. Yeah, we can start with foreign territory. Let's do that first. That's a great call. Okay, so we will start with, and we've already done this with, we've done this game with you, haven't we, Andrew? I know we played Snap.
This is fun, and
yeah, Andrew did it.
Yeah. From the producer because he doesn't like my comic picks.
Well, hello to Brute Facts Podcast. Welcome in.
Eddie.
Glad you are listening to the show.
We got to get you on here, Eddie.
Yeah, come on, Eddie. What are you waiting for? Jump in. So we will play Foreground Territory with Kyle, and then you know what? We might do it with Andrew too, but then we'll play another game before we go. We'll play our favorite game, Snap One, Marry One. What is it? Prank One. I almost forgot the name of it.
Haven't killed yet. Haven't been taken out yet, guys. That's the last one. I'm still here.
That's a dessert question. We got to go through the show first, and then he gets. They got to not rage quit on us, and then we do the prank one, marry one, snap one. All
right. So he's wearing. So all right. Here we go. Shotgun 43, Omaha, New Orleans for Kyle's shirt. Said hoot. All right. We're gonna ask you 4 questions.
Worst
Kyle.
audible ever.
Yeah.
Bourbon Street.
The pass has been intercepted, and it's going back the other way. Quarterback Dutch, the new Sam Darnold.
Mississippi Delta.
So we're going to ask you 4 questions. You're going to give us 4 answers. We'll get to know you.
They're all going to be wrong. But
all right. So the first question that I'll ask you is because you're wearing a Saints shirt.
Yes.
Your favorite Saint, New Orleans Saint of all time, and you may not answer Drew Brees.
All right. Well, this one is easy because I think that even though he's no longer with us, if I don't say my dad, I think that he would come down and flip the furniture over.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, my dad played for the Saints from 71. Your dad was
Archie Manning?
He played with Archie Manning.
Ah, okay.
Oh, no shit.
So I was gonna say you're the Manning that is the weirdo that never made it.
the obscure Manning brother. I can tell by his forehead he's not a Manning.
No. His name is Ray Hester. He was a linebacker. He was he was like a Steve Tasker, kind of like the crazy guy that ran down the field and destroyed everything. And so, yeah, I got it. It's got to be my dad.
Yeah, easy pick.
Hi, Big
pick.
Hi, Big Haas. Type in your question for Kyle, Big Haas.
Yeah, you got to work from home. That's what this is.
Yeah, you're working from home. So Haas is in the chat on vacation. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but type in your question for Kyle, Big Haas. Next question, we'll go to the guest here. Andrew,
hello. I'm clearly next in line.
Nope.
I'm next. Man, fuck that.
All right,
anyway, Kyle.
Go ahead.
Yo.
Trying to be nice.
Are you married?
I am.
Okay. So before you were married, what drink would you buy for a girl to get her attention?
I think it would be like what they want. I would never do a cold, hey, I bought you something. It would have to be, what do you like? Can I get you something?
All right, fine. Take two.
All right.
I'm meeting you at the bar, and I say, order me whatever you're having. What are you getting for both of us to enjoy? Like, what drink are you going to show me?
Wait, are you or are you a woman he's meeting?
Never you mind, Dutch. Let him take. Let his mind go where it goes. But like, if I'm going to meet up with him, like, yeah, just order me something. I'll be there in 5 minutes. What are you ordering for both of us to have?
I would say bourbon, rocks, splash of soda. We're just going there. It's talk time.
Ooh, it's a bourbon man. I appreciate it.
I can't have bourbon anymore, but that was it. That was a good thing. Now it's got to be the clear stuff for me. Vodka, tequila, that kind of thing.
So bourbon on Bourbon Street. That's very nice.
I can't have tequila anymore after the incident.
Well,
at least not in public. I can't have it.
I understand. The incidents are rough, man.
Oh, it was bad.
All right, so I have to audible the audible here. So Haas asked the question, which I don't even know what the hell he's talking about here.
I will read it then. I understand what he's talking about.
Haas, in case he doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about, get your backup question ready, you fuck. All right, go ahead. Read Haas's question.
Hey, what's up, Kyle? This is Haas. Kyle, where would you rank Jada Kiss's Ether and Dipset almost solo in last night's versus battle? Exactly.
Oh man, well, I would say it was a distant last. For sure. I mean, because I don't know what we're talking about right now, so I would say that it was nowhere near the front of the pack. Since I get launched a question like this. So where do I go with this?
He
asks the worst questions live, and he's even worse
working from home. So the versus battles are when like two people in hip hop culture like take their top 20 songs versus your top 20 songs, and they get them together on stream, and it's a very, if you're a fan of hip hop or a rap music, or they've had a couple R&B people pop up, it's very good because you see both of the artists like as they are now, and you get to hear a bunch of great songs. So for like an hour and a half,
that's cool.
This is the dopest playlist ever.
Well, where do I even see this? I've never even seen this.
I think they have their own app now, but it was exclusively on Instagram. But if you check YouTube, you can probably find like all the versus battles that happened so far. It's like DMX versus Snoop Dogg, Nelly versus Ludacris. Like there's been some good ones where you just sit back and like, I don't care who wins. This shit is great.
It sounds pretty cool, but I've never heard of that before, so I wouldn't have even known how to answer that question. He sent in a backup question. That sounds cool. Kyle, what is the riskiest place you've done the deed? That's his backup question.
All right. I would have to say in the wings of the theater. Like in
Dirty Dog.
Yeah. That would be it.
While filming my first porno film.
No, but that was it. That is my answer. Final answer.
All righty.
Number 4 can go to the guest.
Yeah, Andrew, you got it. You get to ask a question. Get to know your new buddy, Kyle.
Oh man, this is tough. This is tough.
Spotlight's on you. We're all watching you. All staring at you intently.
If you had the option to fight one gigantic duck, that if it was broken down into 20 little ducks, but it's still a gigantic duck, or would you rather fight 20 little ducks that can form a gigantic duck?
Oh, that's tough.
What the fuck?
No. This is actually a good question. This is a good one because, like, what do you do? It's like, because you can't actually simultaneously fight off like 20 of anything.
Yeah.
So it just first it would be like, okay, do I have a weapon? Or is it just me mano a mano versus big duck or many ducks?
A duck caller.
You got one decoy duck.
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm gonna have to say I would go against the little ducks, 20 little ducks, because a big duck could do some real damage, like instantly. Like if just like that one big giant beak smash to the forehead, and that could put you down.
That's only one to dodge. Then you can dodge the one bill, but can you dodge 20 going at 45 miles an hour at your face?
You could climb up the giant.
Oh, you see. So actually, you have asked me like an impossible win question.
You're done.
There is no right answer.
Call Affleck. That's the only.
Call Affleck.
Gilbert Gottfried, get me out of here.
For that question, Andrew, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Your favorite topping on ice cream, as it's your
turn. You only get one, son.
Oh, only one. This is tough. Gummy bears.
I knew it. I knew he was going to say something weird. I knew it. He's going to be like nerds or something. But gummy bears is close. Hot fudge, dude. What are you talking
All right, we'll wait for Haz's question as Mikey goes.
All right. Here we go. Oh, no, that's you saying that. Never mind. I don't know why I thought that was Haz typing that. For Andrew, let's see here. Would you rather? No, I was going to do the fight thing back at you. No, fuck it. Yeah, same fight question, except instead of ducks, it is robots. Do you want to fight one big robot or 20 small robots?
Ooh, this is tough. This is a tough question.
And I'm talking like 1 foot little, like 20 1-foot robots or a 20-foot robot.
I do want to get my ass kicked by Optimus Prime, so I'm going to go with the gigantic robot because see, if your ass gets kicked by 20 little robots, you're made fun of. But if it's a gigantic robot, you actually have a legitimate reason why you lost.
It's fucking Optimus Prime. Do you see that shit? There's no.
You know what? I'd like to counterpoint that, man. Because have you seen Robot Wars?
I love that show.
Oh yeah, those phenomenal. Are all small robots. So I mean. I don't know. Maybe you have a chance. You have a chance at like dodging the big one. But if you got like 20 of those like maniac robot warrior
with the
things,
saw on the front.
With the saws and the hammers and all that shit.
Oh my god, just terrifying.
Now we're talking real life. Real life in the cage with 20 robot warrior. Fucking things.
No way. No.
Speaking of
wrapping myself in magnets before I go in there.
Speaking of the hard one, Haas's question for Andrew: what is your dump prevention technique when nowhere near a restroom? That's the best question he's ever asked.
I'm not even understanding the question.
How do you have more than one? There's only one prevention. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a good question, but I don't know if there's more than one answer.
I don't know. You just like called it. Like, you don't have a choice. It's like, I don't know.
Do you squeeze and do the slow shuffle, or do you just say, okay, I'm racing to the bathroom?
Hey, Haas, you have just like lost all of the women viewers of this show. If there were any, they just tuned out, bro. So
35,000 people just stopped watching.
So to get there, what I do is that I start doing RVD somersaults, do a rolling thunder, and then get on the turnbuckle and then make it.
This is thank you, Kay, from the chat. Pepto-Bismol plus Lamaze breathing. That'll get you through.
I say nice. we ban Haas from the show.
The show's going downhill, guys. The show's going downhill.
Kyle, you get to end the segment with your question. Your question for Andrew.
All right, Andrew. So, if you could paint anything with 2 colors, what would it be and what would the colors be?
Holy shit, that's good.
Oh, that is good. That's actually really good. So...
there's your barometer for next week, Haas.
He went so abstract, but so tangible.
I would paint a Hunter Biden.
I bet you Kyle's answer would be, I would paint the Statue of Liberty black and gold.
Oh, see, that's a good one.
Oh,
so you're gonna have to answer for me if anybody asks that, and you're the guy.
He just puts on her back like a jersey, just like
So-
who dat?
So the answer to my question is I'm a super big anime fan. I'm a super big Gundam fan. And there's a particular Gundam called the RX 79, which is sort of the original Gundam. And I would love to like paint it, almost sort of, blue and red and almost like monochromatic, sort of like that type of thing, because that'd be cool for me.
That's really cool. When you said Hunter Biden, the funny thing is like I saw red and blue, like I saw that like bam, like kind of thing, but I don't know you, so I didn't know that you were going to bring out the anime thing, but that's really cool.
And so like I'm just super big into that, and it's one of my favorite shows, and it's just like stark, very much like the Obama Hope poster, sort of. It's very cool, and like that, like the monochromatic. I think what Shepard Farley did that, or Shepard something. I can't think of the guy's last name.
Smith.
But it's a really cool image, and just the starkness. It might not be just two colors, but obviously having 2 or 3 more in there would be really cool too.
All right, very successful 4-down territory there. So let's roll into our first real quick story. We'll spend a couple minutes on all 3 of these real quick before we get to the topic. The first topic is yes.
I want to plead for how much time we got. Okay, I want to plead for 5 minutes of sports talk.
Granted. Go ahead.
The Bulls are back, baby. Yes.
Again,
we finally don't suck. Finally, our team doesn't suck. Yes.
Again, as I said before, my quick comment on this, DeRozan was a fucking free agent anyway. Why are we giving up fucking a first and 2 seconds? That's all I have to say on that. But yes, it'll be nice to see them be possibly competitive until they all get hurt
okay, negative Nancy.
I'm detecting a little pessimism. Not everybody gets hurt. Like, people can make it through a season.
It's the Bulls still.
The Bulls are not a riddled with injury team. They just don't win games. They'll get up by 20. They'll get up by 20 and then lose by 48 points. Like, that's our thing, not getting hurt. We'll go out there unimpaired and just lose.
Yeah, but I can feel that pain though, because I've been a Saints fan like forever. So before Drew Brees, they were terrible every year. But it was like I could wish. It's like no, they're going to come back. They've lost the first 8 games just so they can win the last 8 games and make the playoffs. See,
if we only got 8 interceptions in a row.
That's right. So that means the next 8 passes are going to be touchdowns. Correct. That's how that goes.
Correct. So the Bulls, for all of the uninitiated who keep up with like Chicago sports, the Bulls have now secured DeMar DeRozan. They already had Zach LaVine. They have Alex Caruso from the Lakers, the little short, balding white kid who was dunking on folks. Yeah, we got him. We got Lonzo Ball, Vucevic. Did we trade Lauri Markkanen? Because I can't find him on any rosters anymore. But I guess he's still around. And I don't know. So like our starting 5 is like a decent squad, which could possibly land us in the playoffs, which would be nice for once.
And Scottie Pippen's coming back out of retirement.
Yeah, Scottie Pippen's busy selling his really shitty, overpriced bourbon. So,
well, he's also busy selling. Have you seen Scottie Pippen is watching the Olympics from his house with him?
How much?
Are you serious?
How much?
I don't know. I have no idea how much it costs.
If it's like $20, I'd do
it. I think it's a little bit more than $20.
Oh, then I'm not.
But all righty. So there's your sports talk for the day.
And LeBron broke the NBA. I had 2 more minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead again.
LeBron broke the NBA. He has now Anthony Davis on his team, Dwight Howard, who was on his team previously, Russell Westbrook, and now Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, but Carmelo's old, and he's not very good anymore.
You didn't even watch no games in the last 2 years.
No, but I pay attention, and he's not the same Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, he's different, Melo. He's not the ISO mellow anymore. He's the spot up shooter mellow. Like, he's not bad, Dutch. You have to watch. All right, that's all right. 2022 NBA season. We're watching some games weekly. I will put it up on the screen share and we will watch.
I am absolutely looking forward to what's going on in Illinois, though. The Illini have a very, very solid recruiting class, so I'm looking forward to college hoops. Anything else on sports before we move on to the actual show, Mikey?
Well, I was just wanted to talk about sports that people were being adequately compensated about. But I mean, if you want to watch the poor children be taken advantage of, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've got something for you.
All right.
Called using your likeness for making money.
That's exactly correct. All right. So we got a couple real quick stories here. This one, the Missouri governor, who's a real class act, pardoned St. Louis couple Mark and Patricia McCloskey. You remember these two. They are Ken and Karen, as we call them, from last year when some BLM protesters allegedly broke a gate that looked like it was already open because it wasn't broken when it was on the actual video. But nonetheless, came out with her finger on the button hook there, and good old Mark holding his AK-47. So I'm just going to read this real quick, a roundtable of thoughts on this. The St. Louis couple famously pictured wielding guns as Black Lives Matter demonstrators marched outside their property last year, not on their property, on the street in front of their property.
They were marching down the street past their house to go to the governor's house.
The mayor's house.
The mayor's house, sorry.
Right.
They weren't even going towards them.
Both of these guys are attorneys in their 60s, were granted a pardon on July 30th. By the outgoing governor, who is a Republican, of course. They had pleaded guilty to misdemeanors in connection with the June 2020 incident and were ordered to pay fines. Fourth-degree misdemeanors, assault for threatening the passerby with the AR-15 rifle, $750 fine. Now, here's the thing. They were both celebrated and vilified after this, depending on which side of the situation that you are on. They actually got to speak at the Republican convention. The Republican National Convention last year. And what I found out today, which is interesting, is that Mr. McCloskey, who is also the name of my high school science teacher, it's definitely the same guy, is running for the open Senate seat in Missouri. So you're looking right there at your barefooted, gun-wielding, tight polo wearing, BLM hating senator, because I'm sure the guy will win in a fucking landslide. So
I'm about to say he's probably gonna win. Like, being from St. Louis is one of those cities that you don't realize how segregated it is until you go somewhere else. Like, I never went to school with anybody who wasn't black or white. And I never went to school with white people until I moved out into the county schools. And I never went to school with black kids while I was at the county schools unless they came in on the same bus as me. Like, it's so segregated. Like, there are literal pockets of neighborhoods that the people never leave. It's like boroughs. Like, they never leave their borough. South City never goes onto the north side in Florissant where like Michael Brown and all that shit happen. Like, they're two totally different everythings. Don't interact. Don't talk to each other. Have it's like two different cities, two totally different cities. So yeah. And everybody outside of like downtown St. Louis is these guys. It's a bunch of rednecks who hate everybody. So he'll win. No problems.
God,
all right. Crazy. Kyle, your thoughts when you see this guy's running for Senate?
Well, I think it's pathetic. I mean, I think this is the problem in America. You know, it's like these idiots can go outside and, you know, wave their guns around and whatnot, and basically have no repercussions. The governor is going to pardon them. You know, so it's giving free reign to do whatever you want to do. It's like the Trump derangement syndrome, you know, where he, you know, is basically pardoning all these criminals that are just doing things that he would do. So it's like, so the last 4 years of the fucking moron Trump gave us this insanity that's in our country now. It's like it was always below the surface, you know, but now it's like somehow there's permission that's been given for people to just do crazy shit and act stupid, and like basically the worst of people has now been allowed to come out, you know. And so all of us are like going, what the fuck is going on, you know? But it's like it's the lowest common denominator. And so what it says to me is that like people aren't really that smart. It's like there is a baseline of humanity
that
is really not smart, you know. So it's like my wife and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and like, how does this happen, you know? And then I have to remind myself that very thing. It's like there's like us, we're having a conversation, we're talking about things, you know, we have ideas, and you know, we're, you know,
there's nuance examples,
there's nuance examples
pop up.
yeah exactly. And then it's like if you take off the frontal lobe, there is none of that. And that is what you're dealing with people like that. Yeah, fuck no mask, no, not gonna do the vaccine because that might save me, but I'm American and I'm gonna fucking live my own life until I'm dead in a few weeks with COVID. You know what I mean? It's like that's what we're dealing with.
That's like
question?
that's like what you described is almost precisely the Dunning-Kruger experiment. It's like, and if people are unfamiliar, they gave a whole bunch of people the same test, and then instead of asking them how they think they did, they said, how do you think you did compared to everybody else? And they ran this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now, the people giving out the test, they actually know what everybody's scores is. So the people who did really well think that they fared somewhere in the middle, or maybe they didn't do as well because they figured this is easy shit that everybody knows. But the people who didn't know their fucking ass from a dirty hole in the ground, they all assumed that they were at the very top. And it happened over and over and over and over, where the dumb people assume that they know everything, and the smart people assume that everybody knows the obvious. So, and that is Missouri is the Dunning-Kruger. So this guy is clearly a fucking animal. He's a fucking monster. And he's an attorney, but due to Missouri rules, there's no way he's not going to make it into that Senate seat because the people are dumb and they see, smart attorney man, protect home from black men. Vote.
The funny thing is there was hardly any black people in that BLM crowd.
Doesn't matter.
We go to the dissenting justice.
So I'm not thrilled with this. I think it's retarded, for lack of a better word. But I also think that
maybe it's stupid or it makes no sense.
No. Nobody. I'm not a fan of this. Right? I don't want this person in there. I don't want crazy lunatics in the Senate. I want intelligent people running the Senate who make concise arguments and actually say, well, we disagree on certain policy. I don't want a gun-toting pointing at unarmed citizens, not protecting his property. You know, I don't want that per se. But at the same time, you guys say this is dumb. I think this is brilliant for, strategy. I don't think it's good for the country. But here he is in a spotlight. You said, you just outlined it perfectly a few minutes ago, and he's capitalizing on it. So, I mean, at a certain point, we have to say to ourselves, how in the hell did America not get this? How do the people not in this country understand what the strategy is? It's crystal clear to me, and he's utilizing it, and he's going to win utilizing a strategy. It's not dumb at all. It's brilliant. It's pathetic that we're in that state, but it's not dumb that you're utilizing a strategy to win. I mean, that's just politics. I mean, you take the idea and that you start doing something. Look at 2015, 2016, the Donald Trump strategy, taking out every single Republican. Brilliant strategy. You could say it's horrific for America, but you have to acknowledge the strategy. And so that's how I view it, is that this is just brilliant political strategy. That doesn't mean it's good for America. That doesn't mean it's good for Missouri. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a good thing in the long run. I mean, that's how I view it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody agrees with me.
Ow.
I don't necessarily disagree with, like, I'm not sure that it's strategy, because like I don't think that when he walked outside that day that he was strategizing. I think he was fucking scared, right? And because of the fact that he showed he was strong, according to the perception of a few, and stood up to the bullies in Black Lives Matter, that he is therefore qualified to be the champion of gun rights or whatever.
My point about the strategy, and I'll clarify my position so there's no confusion, is that the event happened and now they're spinning it into the strategy. The strategy is not him coming out and what he did, what you just described, because I agree with that. The strategy is saying, we did X and now we're going to utilize it to boost this Senate campaign and win. Unbelievable. And I don't get out how nobody says this is dumb, and that how does somebody not have a candidate to challenge this in a whole Senate state race?
Okay.
I mean,
I have an idea. So what the Democrats should do, I'm gonna run for office in Illinois, right, as a Democrat. So what I'll do is I'll endanger an entire crowd of people's lives by pointing a loaded weapon at them. I'll do that. So then when the fallout happens from me endangering people's lives pops up, a guy on the internet can later say, oh, that was a brilliant strategy to spin that. Like, fuck the strategy. This dude pointed a loaded weapon at a crowd of people. Like
the whole, I agree with this.
And I'm new to the 2A thing, right? But that's the first fucking rule of fucking gun safety. What's the first fucking rule?
Not to mention she's walking around out there with the wife, at least, is walking around out there with her finger
around
the trigger, around completely wrapped around the trigger, and holding it like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it a different way. This is a whole sales thing. That's what this is in reality. I think I don't get how we got here, because to me, I view this and I'm like, we're having somebody who pointed guns and endangered a bunch of people, and maybe I agree with his politics, maybe I don't agree with it, but how is this person not being viciously attacked by Democrats in campaign ads? I mean, I could think of 15 ads to run against this guy to sink his campaign in minutes. How is this?
Because
it's mind-boggling to me.
Here's the problem, Andrew. Of all of the conservatives that I know, you have a problem unique among them. You're a little bit too rational, and being rational is no longer a part of the conservative nomenclature, right? Like it's all about who's the enemy and who's fighting the enemy. And that is why, that is not the main reason why, but it is a key premise or one of my key reasons supporting my new stance as anti-Republican, right? Because none of this would have flown under Reagan or under Bush. None of this would have flown, and now all of it flies. And not only does it fly, it's always been right, and it's always been the way that it's reasonable, right? And it's like the rational few, like Eric in our chat, he considers himself a rational moderate. It's people who are able to think and say, okay, you know what? I don't like this thing that AOC said, or I don't like this thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene said. But to recognize craziness is gone on the right. They don't recognize craziness anymore. Unfortunately, they embrace it. All you have to do for evidence for that is look at the vaccine issues going on, right? Like it's perfectly reasonable to say, man, I've got some questions about how fast this vaccine came out, and I'm a little bit nervous about going to get the shot. That's reasonable. What's unreasonable is saying there's a microchip in it that is going to cause a Volkswagen Beetle driving down the street to roll over and hit me because I have magnets inside of me.
So I don't want to get too much into the weeds because we could have 5-hour conversations about this. But
Right.
The way I view, things is that I think most people, and I think the craziness is 10%. I don't think the craziness is the 50% or the 49%. I think what's happened in our country is I think the craziness has been pumped up with steroids on Fox News and a variety of other podcasts. And I think we're only getting the 10%. And not because the people I speak to who are hardcore, Republicans and conservatives, they don't think any of this. And, I live in Connecticut, I lived in DC. And so obviously I view it maybe from a congressional standpoint, I get that argument, but I don't think that's the majority of people, because I think the majority of people are very, very, in the middle. And a lot of us agree on a lot of things. And also I'm coming out of DC and there's a lot of agreement on legislation and a variety of other things. And maybe I have a different interpretation because of where I'm coming from, and it could not be true in Missouri. But when I speak to people, I find people, and I have Republican friends, and they're like, we don't think of microchips coming down the road. So I'm not 100% buying that argument.
Kyle, you get the last thought on this, and then we'll move on to the last story, or to the next story.
Yeah, well, I think that basically what you have is the 23% of America that bought in fully, to the Trump insanity. I mean, those are the people that basically, were at the Capitol on the 6th. So it's not, there are obviously they're rational Republicans. I know many of them. I'm from Louisiana, so it's there's a lot of my family's Republican, and they are not, chip believing, QAnon, all that fucking craziness, and that's what gets the attention, But unfortunately, that is what has a hold of the party. So it's the Republican Party, my family, it's what the Republican Party is now is unrecognizable, but it's but unfortunately, those people will still vote Republican just because they've always done it, so then we're enhancing the insanity by continuing this. It's giving an okay to, the election was stolen, and all this crap that Trump has been trying to say for 15 years, when he finally got the chance to actually put it in motion, he's been selling this lie for forever, so it's and you tell somebody enough, it's you tell someone a lie enough, and then the lie becomes the truth, so I think that is unfortunately what's happened with a lot of the Republican, that's not really the Republican Party anymore, the Trump faction, that has taken over the party. So that's what I got.
I see that point, and there's some fair points, and there's some concessions, but I don't want to keep going with it. I want to obviously move forward.
We'll push forward.
Ay, caramba!
It's just craziness. But anyway, so moving on to our next real quick story here. And unfortunately, all these are 2-hour podcast stories. And we can only spend 5 minutes on each, but it is what it is. This is kind of a litmus test. Honestly, a very big story as far as the future of American politics goes. In an upset, pro-Israel, and this is from the Times of Israel. Though I chose this story because I thought it was interesting the way that their take on it. Progressive squad-backed Nina Turner had a massive lead over they're calling her the establishment candidate, and that's honestly what she is, in Chantel Brown in yesterday's special election in Ohio 11. One of the reasons why I brought up this particular story is because there was a town hall with Killer Mike and TYT host Cenk Uygur, where it was a rally for Nina Turner, and Killer Mike, the rapper, basically was criticizing Jim Clyburn about making a bad deal with Biden, and basically only getting the 1619 project as an or the 1619 project, only getting Juneteenth to be a national holiday, and that's the only thing that he got out of this deal. So there's some legitimacy to what he was talking about there. But Brown, who is a Cuyahoga County councilwoman, came from behind from like 30 points down in the polls to win a critical Democratic primary in the Cleveland area district with a substantial Jewish population. And this Jewish article goes on to talk about how she is pro-Israel, how important pro-Israel Democrats are to the Democratic Party, and how important it is to elect pro-Israel folks to Congress. And it also goes on to talk about how Turner was a leading voice for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. So I'll toss this out. Mikey, your thoughts on Nina Turner losing this race?
Who did she lose against? What was the person's name?
This young lady right here, Chantel Brown.
Who did she lose against, though?
Nina Turner lost to Chantel Brown.
Chantel Brown.
So Chantel Brown is the winner.
I mean, as much as I get the whole corporate Democrat thing, I'm not buying into that. I'm left-leaning because I'm a secular humanist and I care about people, and that's typically where a lot of my political coloration has to reside, unfortunately. But yeah, you can't be pro-genocide, and be pro-humanist. Like that's not a thing for me, and that's not something that I waver from. Israel has its positives, and it definitely has its negatives. Being pro-Israel is not a fucking that's not a linchpin on me pulling the trigger on a vote for somebody. Like, that doesn't do it for me. It's just saying that doesn't do it for me. Actually, it makes me worry about you a little bit. It brings up more questions.
You're not characterizing Nina Turner, who, I mean, Nina Turner said some things that I don't agree with as well, but I would not characterize anything she said as pro-genocide.
Pro-Israel isn't it? It's the same.
Okay, so that's the thing, is that Nina Turner. Okay, so you're talking about pro-genocide versus Palestinians.
Correct. I mean,
okay.
I can't sit here on our platform and say I support everything that Israel does. Go right. Israel, when I know that Israel is doing some shit and has done some shit. So right. I have reservations about how they do things. So I would never go out on the campaign trail and talk about some Israel and start waving a flag and doing the whole thing. Like, that's problematic to me.
Okay, that's where I thought you were saying that Nina Turner was supporting the genocide of Jews.
No.
Okay, so the and that's a thing, and I'll pass it to our guests here, but first of all, the Democratic establishment turned on Nina Turner on a dime. Like, Hillary Clinton is still so mad about, but like, this is literally like the 6th year of the 2016 Democratic National Convention. It's ridiculous because it's still the Bernie side versus the Hillary side. And, you know, it's, to me, like, it's okay to be moderate. But just because I'm critical of the Israeli government, there's in no way that you can say that because I'm critical of a government that does a lot of foul shit. And that's not to, say that the PLO and Hamas and stuff don't do heinous shit too. But those people, I'm not defending the actions, but I understand you've had your homeland taken away from you, and you're basically living in a police state without rights and without votes.
And with your house on the other side of a fence that you can see a motherfucker living in that bitch going to and from work in your fucking house.
And like, they built a wall. That's different. Wall past the borders. Like, so it's like, I understand why they're pissed off. But if I'm critical of that doesn't mean I hate Jews. It's just ridiculous. Kyle, your thoughts on I'd like to get your opinion on a specific piece of this. When it comes to the progressive versus moderate debate, why do you feel like the mainstream media, and I'm talking about MSNBC. We talked a lot about this last week or 2 weeks ago. We talked about media bias in the news. Your MSNBCs and CNNs. Do you see that they're against progressives in any way? Is that in your optic view? And do you see this at all in Hollywood?
That they are against progressives?
Right.
No, I don't see that. I don't see that they're against progressives. I think that it's like when you have people that like extremes of anything, so like in the Democratic Party, we have people that basically are very, give people things and social programs and like people deserve obviously not to be homeless and not, all of the things that like we have like a huge homeless problem here in LA,
Yeah.
And so it's like, so how do you fix that? And that fortunately we have people that are working on that, the kind of thing. But man, it's like that whole topic like of the Israeli situation and the Democratic Party and being, pro-Israel or not, I really don't think that it should be attached, and that the fact that like, and I see the Republican Party too, is like Republican Party is very pro-Israel, which is great. I mean, it's like my sister-in-law is Jewish, so it's like that's wonderful, and so is my uncle. So it's like that's not the issue, but it's like the government, like you were saying, is doing some really shitty things, so it's like
Kyle, maybe you can split the hair for us in a way that we haven't approached it yet. How do you parse out Israeli government from Jewish people? Because I think that's like, I'm part of several different shows and we always struggle with whether or not to cover something because
well, here's how I can answer.
We don't want to come off anti-Semitic, but it's like, I'm not talking about Jews. I'm talking about the Israeli government, the Israeli army. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do know what you're saying. And I think that's the kind of thing that like peeling back the onion on all this kind of thing. It's like when Trump was president and like basically the world hated America, and it's like, and there's like, the majority of us that didn't vote for him are going like, wait a minute, that's not America. That's this guy, Right. So I think that there's a separation, the leaders of countries that do terrible things doesn't mean the people are terrible. And there are people that will support the terrible things, but that's not like the majority of the people, So I think that it's like the separation of government and people is the thing. So I think that will be the way that.
But it's bigger. But it's bigger than that, though, because anti-Semitism implies like anti-Judaism. So it's like almost like a religious thing. So it's like if you say, I don't think that these people should kick these people out of an area, they say you're persecuting our religion. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I'm saying. And the thing is, that's their own dogma because that actually does not equal that. So it's like I'm a pagan. And Christianity basically like conquered America, so it's like, but it's like, I don't hate Christians because of the, of the past of what happened, so it's like that kind of like religious situation that like seeps across everything is a big problem, so it's like, so that's the issue of how you knock down that door, and have a rational conversation when people are tying it to religion. And so you're anti this or you're anti that. And you're like, no, we're just talking about what happened in this area with these, settlements and whatnot. And, these people are kicked out of their house. And how do you justify that? And like, well, so you got to be able to separate the two. But once you lockstep into your religion means that this has to be okay. That's the problem with religion.
Right. I agree. 100%. Andrew, did you want to pop in on that?
Yeah, so this is super interesting hearing all three of you talk because I'm Jewish. And
fantastic.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week, folks. Join us next week.
So I mean, the way I separate these two things is that if you criticize Israel as a country, like you criticize the U.S., Canada, Britain, Afghanistan, and you say we don't really like the fact that they, as a government, bulldoze houses down, and we don't like that and let's say I'll pick a governor, Andrew Cuomo, because he's not liked right now. He decides to bulldoze down people's houses, and you criticize those things as equal. Well, then it's not anti-Semitism anymore because you're criticizing it equally. When it becomes anti-Semitism, is that I'm criticizing Israel because they are a Jewish country. Then it becomes with the sole reason of it being Jewish first and not secondary. Or if you say, hey, I'm going to throw rocks at a Jew just because he's Jewish, that is clear anti-Semitism. So that's how we divide it. And I think that that's a fair division.
So do the bulldozing houses thing again. And like, if it's what do you mean by like, if it's a Jewish country? Because there's a lot of people in Israel who aren't Jews.
So I guess the argument and the way I parse it is that if you're saying, oh, Israel decided to go bomb Egypt, and you're criticizing them because Egypt bombed them, and then the Jews are retaliating, and you make it you put religion there in front instead of a country defending itself, then it becomes anti-Semitism because you're criticizing them based on the fact that you're saying, oh, it's a Jewish government, and that they're acting with their religion first versus like almost like a crusade, and you're putting their religion out there. If that makes any sense.
Let me throw another monkey wrench in there, because I think a lot of times if you just say I have thought conflicts with the Israeli government, right? Like I'm talking about the government. I'm leaving the Jewish and the religion. Like that's not what I'm going after. But the army of Israel did such and such. But as soon as you say the army of Israel, it turns into that's anti-Jewish. So, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like how does that work?
So the way I view it is that if I'm to say, well, the United States, didn't show up to Syria, and then Israel didn't show up to Syria, just to equate it very, very, very simply, that to me, if you have an issue with Israel not showing up, the Israeli army didn't show up to defend the Red Line in Syria, that's not anti-Semitism, because you're criticizing them the same way you criticize any other government. It's when you start saying, and that's the division. And I think that the anti-Semitism card, is done that it is used a little too much, and I think it's dogma. Okay. I also think that unfortunately, and it's on both sides. I think people, they don't want to make enemies, and there's plenty of Jewish Democrat spots where voters are Democrats who are Jewish, and there's plenty of Republicans, and it's just an easy win card. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to defend against.
Yeah.
So let me ask.
Yeah, go ahead, Dutch.
Please.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry. So taking Nina Turner, for example, right? Like, and other Democrats who are in hot water for things they've said about Israel. When I parse those comments out, there's always nuance there, right? But what I generally see is like they'll criticize. If I criticize Christianity, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily criticizing Christians. If I criticize Islam, the right wing jumps up and down and cheers. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm criticizing specific Muslim people, right? Like I don't like the Islamic doctrine. I don't like Christian doctrine, right? I don't like Jewish doctrine. Like I don't think that the book of Leviticus is a very good book. The same for a lot, but if someone brings up the fact that the Jewish state is using religion, which they are, because they believe that the Bible has ordained that this is their homeland and therefore it is, and Christians buy into that. And I attack that. It's not really dogma, that religious belief. That is not, to my eye, anti-Semitic. That is critical of something that you like, Zionism, right? Zionism is Zionism is not written about in the Bible. That's a more modern concept. But if I'm an anti-Zionist, that just means I don't believe in what your ancient texts say that to be true or valid in today's world. That doesn't mean that I hate Jewish people. Why is it that continues to happen?
So with the right to Israel, there's two positions. So obviously, in 1945 to 1948, there's obviously a bunch of doctrines that granted and formed because of the Holocaust. So from a legal land perspective, the Jewish state was granted by essentially the UK and a few other countries. That's the defense from a legal position. And if you're critical of the UK and the UN on that point, that's not anti-Semitism by far. And if you say, well, so if I'm to defend Israel's right as a country and of being a quote unquote Jewish country, I'm not going to pick the Bible to defend or the Tanakh or the Torah to defend on that point. So that's just a weak argument for me. And I'm not going to pick anti-Semitism on that argument. The anti-Semitism position, Ilhan Omar said, oh, it's all about the money. And that's why all these unions and other things are supporting Israel. That was an anti-Semitism comment because she was implying that, all this politics stuff is about the money with Israel and Jews, but there's plenty of other money, and she wasn't critical of, the Coke industries. She wouldn't have made the same statement to that. That's a perfect example.
That's true, but
that's a perfect example of anti-Semitism. So I agree.
No, wait. But wait, is it because all politics is fucked up mainly because of money? Because people are taking shit under the table and everyone's on the fucking take and no one is doing what they're supposed to be doing because they don't have to because they're on the take. So I don't know
top of that, let me add.
Hold on.
Trump said,
hold on. Let me finish the sentence. And just because someone's taking money from Israel doesn't mean that it's automatically anti-Semitic. That just means they're just as they're involved in the same kind of corruption that the Koch brothers are into, that Big Pharma is into, that the petroleum industry is into. That just means that they're part of the game. That doesn't separate them as bad specifically. That makes them part of. Okay, so if China had a bunch of lobbyists in this country, we would say get the money out of politics and don't listen to them. It's the same thing with Israel or Russia.
No. The reason why I say it is because it wasn't, when it's Coke Industries, they're not attacking a country and they're not saying, oh, it's all about Israel Jewish money. Is pretty much what she was implying when you read in between the lines. There's a difference when you attach, a religion to it and say, oh, and has the dirty context. If we said we don't want Russian money in here and we don't want that, but we don't do money.
Did she say Jewish money or Israel money?
She said it's all. I mean, I don't have the exact quote.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you can't.
But it was implied. It was implied. And
but that's what I'm saying. You can't be critical of Israel without being shot at for being anti-Semitic.
But what I just explained is that if you say Israel is bulldozing houses of Palestinians, that you could be critical, saying the government is doing something. When you say, oh, it's Jewish money and it's all about the money and the Jewish money, that's anti-Semitic. Because what you've done now is that you've attached a person and created a dirty context to it, and you've attacked an entire country, and it's a Jewish country. There's no question about that.
Let me put some context to this. So the quote is, and I'm reading an article from back then. She said, there's a couple of different things here. She said, the latest controversial tweets from Omar suggest Jews are buying political support. She tweeted the following she said, all about the Benjamins, baby, when a reference to a song, obviously, about $100 bills. And AIPAC, which is a pro-Israel lobbying group, lobbying for political gain, right? That was highly criticized, and it was poor choice of words. But Donald Trump goes into a room full of Jewish people at a fundraiser and says, we all know there's a lot of money in this room, right? And like that, but that comment flies completely under the radar. So, I mean, we have to move on from this because we're on a time crunch. But I will let you have just the follow up to what I said there. Yeah, Andrew.
Oh, I mean, my point is that I think that there's criticizing governments is perfectly fair. I think when you clearly make it, and I think everybody knows when it's clear. I really do. I think that, I think a lot of this has been blown out of proportion, but I do think that there is some of that stuff in anti-Semitism in there. And that I think when you specifically put saying, it's Jewish money, for example, in there, it becomes anti-Semitic. But if you say, I have an issue with the way, if you would criticize, and the way I view this, and it's my barometer, if you criticize the U.S. the same way as you would criticize if Israel did the action, then it's not anti-Semitism. So that's how I view it.
The way this irritates me, and I'm just going to say this and we'll move on, is that the right has this tendency, for better or worse, to say, like, if you kneel for the anthem, you hate America. If you say something negative about the Jewish government, you hate Jews. It's always this all or nothing, right? It's never just like, oh, this is my stance on this. They don't allow that, and I find that problematic. Now, this is, again, a 4-hour discussion, but we're on time crunch show, so we got to move on. So we'll move on to the topic at hand. I'm going to segue into this because I think it is worth noting that I went to go see Black Widow yesterday, which was great. I won't spoil it for anybody, but I will say best Marvel movie since Winter Soldier. But Scarlett Johannsen is suing Disney over releasing the movie on Disney Plus, right? Because her pay was set up to based on the box office release. This brings us to the topic, because what we're talking about here today is we're going to talk about bias in Hollywood. And there's obviously been, you can call it an anti-female bias. You can also call it like a way that women have been cast in Hollywood. We're going to talk about a few different areas of this. But just like as an actor, Kyle, like when you think about the biases that have been taking place in film or on TV, in television shows over the course of, the last, 75 years or so of mainstream television, what would you say is the underlying theme of, like, where's the biases that you see, or the spin maybe is a better word, that you see, and that, like, in the messages that Hollywood tries to get across?
That they try to get across. See, I think that the question is so much like deeper than 75 years. I mean, basically, for the last, 2,000 years, we've had a whole patriarchal system, so that is ingrained in everything. So, like, men think they're better than women, like kind of innately. They've been taught it, since they were, toughen up your kid, take care of the woman, she's weak, all the stuff that you're taught, and this is through generations and generations. So it's just people that are making films that go along with this learned kind of bias. And so it's like to unravel all that stuff, it's going to take a little while. So it's like, hey, this is not good. Don't do that anymore. Women are actually smart, and more than beautiful things to look at,
Yeah.
and that takes some undoing, so I think it's simple, but it's complicated because it's innate in like what people have been taught, on this whole planet. It's not just America. It's everywhere. It's like there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen, we as human beings. So and film is just a reflection of where we all are,
Right.
in our learning process.
Art imitates life. So you had a problem with the Disney films from the 40s and 50s. That's because America was fuck shit. And that's why we put out bad shit. And now that we're trying to get to a better place, it's going to be some uncomfortable growing pains for a lot of people, where they have to get used to things not being the way that they were before. Like we're one of those transitional decades where things went from being, that's probably not great, to that is a much better way of dealing with things. And I think that's good. I think it helps all of us. And if something makes you uncomfortable, that means you're growing. That's a good thing. If you don't like something and you don't know why, that's your bias showing, and it's letting you know that you're upset with something. Just deal with it. Like realize that it's there, understand why it's there, and then throw that shit away. Just like, but don't just act like, oh, well, it was a bad movie because the camera worked. Like, don't make excuses for it. I don't like Black Widow because I don't think Black Widow should be an Avenger. Because when Thanos shows up with his fucking super fucking powers, what the fuck is a spy gonna do? She has her own separate. Her and Hawkeye need to go sit on the back ropes when the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and fucking everybody with fucking magic is there. And then here comes like, yo, I'm gonna do some interrogation tactics. Yo, go sit your ass down.
Does that hold true for the Dora Milaje as well?
They can beat the shit out of super soldiers. They have some skill. You think Dora Milaje is gonna fucking shriek when it comes to a fucking Black Widow? Say it right here, right now, Dutch. Who are you taking? Okoye or fucking Black Widow? Who's gonna win in a fight?
I think it would be a very evenly matched fight. I mean, you got to remember, Black Widow, right? Like Black Widow is the premier. She's supposed, at least in the comic book sense, Black Widow is the premier of all of the Black Widows, right? Like she's the best of all of the Black Widows that are out there. So you
think she beat my homeboy with the silver arm?
Well, no, because he has super soldier serum.
And who did the Dora Milaje with no extra special powers?
When did the Dora Milaje beat Winter Soldier?
They took his arm off.
When did they break his arm off?
Did you forget that part of the show?
Which are you talking about in
Falcon and Winter Soldier? The Dora Milaje showed up and they said chong kong kong kink, and they fucking
because they knew
right off of him.
They knew the code to get it off. It's not like they ripped it off of him. So yeah, they outsmarted him for a second. Sure, we're talking about
outsmarted him.
Okay,
he's a super soldier, and he couldn't stop them from taking the arm back.
Right, that doesn't mean that they're not badasses. But like, okay, so we're going down a bias hole here right now.
And your
this is so entertaining.
I said it would be evenly matched, right? That's all I said. It would be evenly matched. So
me and Kyle are just gonna let you two fight, and we're just gonna sit back and enjoy it. Do you guys mind me getting some popcorn?
You bring up a good point. Andrew and Kyle, tell me right now, who wins in a fight? The head of the Dora Milaje, my girl Nkoye, or the Black Widow? Tell me right now. Shut your God. You get 2, not 100.
I had a very good article pulled up about some of the bias against African Americans in Hollywood that's taken place over the last few years, but I didn't realize that it was a fucking New York Times article, and I got to read it, and then after a while, it won't let me look at it anymore. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start this conversation a little bit of a different way. I do have one article. I was
actually going to bring something up, if you don't mind.
No. Cool. You can bring anything up you want. This is an open forum show.
So it's not necessarily Hollywood, but it's actually WWE. And I was actually going to read some of the women's salaries because I think this is very, very interesting. So Ronda Rousey's annual contract is 2.1 with 2.5 merchandising sale. Charlotte Flair is $1 million. Becky Lynch has a 3.1 million. Alexa Bliss has 30,000. Earnings and pay-per-views with 350,000. And then, well, the list just keeps going downward, all the way downward from there. And so most of the women on the roster are making 350,000 or less. And then a lot of them, as you go down, people like Mandy Rose make 150,000. Some of them maybe make 250,000, but then some of them make 100,000. And then when you get into the minor leagues, they're making less than 100,000. And
are you talking about wrestlers? Which list are you looking at?
Wrestlers in WWE.
Okay.
And the reason why their male counterparts are making 200,000, or making 150,000 in NXT, so they're making $70,000 more, or some of them are making 250,000 when the women are making 150,000. And so it's kind of crazy that you have women, and these women, in a lot of ways, I mean, some of them are like a year in, and obviously you make less than if you're 10 years in. But even some of the women who've been wrestling for 6 years are making only $150,000, while the guys wrestling for 6 years are making like $400,000. And so there's a real issue with that. And obviously the matches are better. They're putting in some of the same work as the men. And it's kind of a crazy bias where, and then when you get to the top, you have Becky Lynch making $3.1 million, which is similar money to a top WWE male star, but it literally took almost 10 years to get there. And it's kind of crazy. And so it's a real issue where I know it's not exactly Hollywood, but it's television. And there's a real bias in that. And it's kind of crazy. And it's not good. And they don't get the same merchandising rights. They don't get the same perks. And it's a big issue in wrestling. I know it's a little bit off topic, but I think it really highlights it.
That's a fair way to highlight it. Let's touch on this kind of systematically. So you have a couple of different things, I think, that when you look at film over the course of the history of film, where you have groups that have been portrayed well or not portrayed well. I'm going to bring up a couple of them here. There was a story that I was talking about, and there's another article I kind of pulled up on it here briefly, where it talks about the $10 billion opportunity from CSNBC, where they study the anti-Black bias in Hollywood. So a couple of key points here from this article. They say in this article that if Hollywood were to address racial inequalities in the film and TV industry, annual revenue could rise by about 7% or $10 billion, according to findings by a new study from McKinsey. The consulting firm's research found that Black-led stories are underfunded and undervalued, and it ranks the TV and film industry as disproportionately white. They had talked in this Times article about how, historically speaking, films that have had 2 Black leads have done, I believe that the number was about 6% better than films that had only 1 or no Black leads. So starting with race, and we'll talk about women, we'll talk about Christians and conservatives, I think all systematically as far as the bias or non-bias that we see. But I think obviously back in the day, it was a little bit easier to explain, perhaps because of the fact that almost all of the producers and writers and stuff that were getting jobs in Hollywood were white people. When they write stories about themselves and, or reflections of themselves or people that they know. So you can kind of explain it in a way as like this non-hateful bias in that way. But as things have progressed and gotten to be more where the society has become a little bit different, what I'd like to know, like from Kyle, is what type of efforts is it what type of efforts have you seen, or what type of efforts do you make as a filmmaker to sort of make sure that the films that you make, and it doesn't have to be necessarily Black, but when it comes to women or Hispanics or minorities or anything like that, to put voices into your films or into films of the peers your peers that you enjoy, that make those films richer or better? And is it a problem?
Well, I think that a lot of things are coming to light now, as far as like what I do, what we're going to be doing is all inclusive. My wife's a screenwriter, so it's definitely gonna, we're not gonna march out women, in bikinis in our films, and it's gonna reflect America, and I think that is like I grew up, with like, the melting pot, America's the melting pot. And you had like, the posters and all that kind of stuff. And that was done away with pretty quickly. But it's like, that's very much in the way that I think and see things, and it's like,
Right.
I am an example of that. I probably have like all of the races are, they're represented in this guy, so it's like, I think that for me personally, it's never been like an issue of like, how am I going to do this? Because I kind of I innately do it, and kind of being fair to everyone and make sure that people are represented, to cast things just because you know, someone's white or black or Asian or Indian or whatever. I think that it's like once you start doing things that are outside of a story, then it's like you're doing things for a different reason. So I think that if people just want to tell what the stories are, you know, for what they are, and just and not necessarily see color, you know, in it, then anyone can have those parts, you know. So I think that's kind of where we need to go, you know. And I think that, like, as far as bias goes, is, you know, through Hollywood's history, you know, it's like, I mean, Black people and Native Americans, you know, were made to look like fucking idiots, you know. And I think that was through a lot of like early film, and that's like that's a big problem. But it's also, that's the founding of this country, you know. It's like, hey man, you know, there's a lot to look at here.
It's innately American.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, don't look away. Don't look away. It's like, this is where America came from. So now we get to go, oh yeah, you know what? Let's change some things.
So Frederick, I'll mention something. Sorry to cut you off, but I think it's super important. It's either Holiday Inn or White Christmas. And there's a scene where they're doing blackface in it. Okay, that is from back, I think, in either the 40s or the 50s. You know, that's, I mean, I think we're past that.
I don't think it's White Christmas, because I've seen that movie.
It's maybe Holiday Inn.
So it might be the other one, yeah.
But I think the idea is that that's very American. But obviously, I think that is very offensive. It's horrific. You know, it's not good. But obviously that's American. And I think that, you know, fast forward, I mean, we have a major movie coming out with a black lead in it, and that's Suicide Squad. And it's a big deal. And I think, you know, as
who's the lead in that?
Oh, man. He was in Tenet, I think.
Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Idris Elba, yeah.
Yeah, Idris Elba.
He's British, for fuck's sake.
There's the anti-British bias coming out.
But I have to deal with a British man every fucking week and 3 times throughout the week. I have a very special vein of, God damn, y'all can't spell shit right with the fucking British people. Me and British people, we got beef, but it's like hip hop. Here's to you, mister. I have to spell favorite with a fucking U in it. You goddamn, you monsters.
I think with stories, I think we are progressing. And could it go faster? Yes. But you know what it is? I think we're going to get there. I think in the next 30, 40 years, I don't think this is going to be a problem. I really don't.
I think I agree with with that last statement. I think that as time progresses, it's going to become less of a problem. But people are pushing back right now to the fact that they're seeing the change in front of their eyes. Like they look at, and Kyle, let me know if you agree or disagree with this. But like you look at like what they call classic cinema of the, you know, the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Humphrey Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart, Cary Grant, Gone with the Wind, you know, all these films that were out back then. I mean, I'm not talking about the overtly bad shit like Birth of a Nation, where it was just like 100% made for racism. I'm talking about the more subtle stuff. And like you had the way that blacks were often characterized, and a lot of times even in black cinema itself, like, you know, even then some of the John Singleton films and stuff like that, where people looked at that and they said, oh, that must be everybody, right? And then it drives some fear. But for example, Frederick Douglass, I was going to say before, is the most photographed person of like the mid 1850s. And he did that because he wanted to make sure that people saw a representation in art of a black face that was not what people would generally attribute to blackness, right? Like it would quell the fear because they would see a positive portrayal. And you saw a lot of this with the Cosby Show and things like that as time goes along. But you would see
backstabbed all of us
until he right. But Cliff Huxtable didn't backstab us. That was Bill Cosby that did.
Stop it. That's Bill Cosby. That's not Cliff Huxtable. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Cliff Huxtable did nothing wrong.
Cliff Huxtable is not real, bro.
Yes, but he is. But Cliff Huxtable remains a positive icon.
It's real to me, man.
No, that's like saying that homeboy from fucking House of Cards. It like no. His character is fine. No, that's part of him. That's
Unless you do the British version, and then you're good to go.
Well, you've got, so we'll disagree on that, but like when you looked at African Americans, they were underrepresented, and then they were represented, as in servitude or things like that with women. And you mentioned White Christmas, right? Like
it's Holiday Inn, but I digress.
But you mentioned you did mention White Christmas, right? So White Christmas is a great example of this because, like, White Christmas is like one of the wife's favorite movies. So we watch it every year at Christmas. I've probably seen this movie like 7 times. And it's not a bad film, but when you watch it, you see like the bias. The only black guy in the movie is the train car guy who's serving drinks. The women in the movie are very, like, they're very what people identify as like the classic American woman, like well dressed to the T's, always presentable, very submissive, talk when they're, talk in their place, are just interested in being wives or married or that sort of thing. And their whole initiative in life is to get a man. And then you look at like Christianity. Christians these days will talk about how Hollywood is very biased against them. And that might be true with Hollywood actors themselves. Kyle could probably speak better on that than I can. But film has not been. Like, how many movies have been made about the Bible or Bible stories? Hundreds and hundreds of films have been made about the Bible and Bible stories and representations.
Hey, I have a film in post-production right now called Preacher 6. So, I mean, it's not a religious film per se, but it's got preachers in it that are like do a lot of demon killing, so it's but that it's definitely not an anti-religion film at all,
But do you think that movie, so that's a good example. Do you think that movie will be characterized as like anti-Christian anyway, because of the fact that the pastor is going out there being violent?
That's a good question.
I want to see this movie now.
Hey man,
you know what? Look up on YouTube. We have some trailers. It's in post production right now. But
Preacher 6. I'll post it in the chat so everybody can check it out.
Okay, cool. I actually hadn't really considered that because it wasn't a part of my thinking. Like when we were making the film, it's just like this is the situation. Like this person happens to be a preacher, and there happens to be this problem where you got to take care of this problem, and it's like at this particular point, and nowhere in the film was the word Jesus or God. So, and that was done intentionally. So
that's awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I want to go see this now. It's like right.
I've seen the trailer for this movie for Preacher 6. Honestly, and I'm not saying this to kiss your ass. It's probably one of the more exciting trailers for a movie that I've seen. Like when the guy, the black guy, like he's not a black person, he's like a black demonic entity, falls from the ceiling onto the table and like does the superhero landing. Stop what?
Why are you the king?
It's a trailer.
Stop spoiling shit. I literally put the link.
Can you spoil a trailer?
Seconds.
Okay.
Yes. Let them enjoy it. Tell them how you were enraptured, how you were taken away by how great it was. Don't tell them what it is.
I could tell you.
Let them watch it. Let them get the views.
So I can tell you why I'm interested in this movie, and it might be slightly relevant, is that I'm a huge Zenescope fan. And Zenescope is a comic book company that has a lot of strong female leads. So they do a female Robin Hood, a female Van Helsing. The sci-fi show Van Helsing is based off of Zenescope's concept of Van Helsing. They've done Wonderland, focusing on Alice and Callie and her daughter Violet down in Wonderland. And obviously they do Dorothy and Oz, and like these women are really strong. And so this seems just like that and right up that alley. And so, it's very interesting.
Very cool. Yeah, we have a character in it, the Blue Nun, played by Naomi Grossman from American Horror Story. And and she actually, has this. She has a special ability where she can like electrify things. So she like electrifies this chain, and it's like this lightning chain that she ends up like killing demons with. So, yeah. So that'll be fun.
When is it out?
We're actually in VFX land right now. So I'm bringing on some help. I have Mike Bybee, who's long play games. He does video games, so he's going to be helping me to finish up the VFX. So we don't have a release date now, so it just depends upon how long all this stuff is going to take us to get done.
So January 1st, everybody, Preacher 6 will be available online on all the streaming platforms. It'll be in the theaters January 1st. You heard it here first on Dig on America.
Well,
Thank you, Kyle, for
you're welcome. I'll tell you this: get your Vimeo links, because that's going to be where it's going to be, is on Vimeo first. So it'll be up for rental on. Besides DVD.
I like that. Can we do like a subtle tangent on that? Is that the way to go, Vimeo, for like smaller like production things, and for things that are getting out like during the COVID times where theaters may or may not be open, and that like the blockbuster release may not be your option? Is Vimeo the way to go for independent film producers?
In my opinion, I would say yes, because I have not heard of any indie films making any money, doing, the Amazon Prime thing. I mean, I know these distributors put all their shit up on Amazon Prime, and then the filmmakers never make any money, and that's the last film they do, so unless you have like $1 bazillion for advertising, and you get millions of views on Prime, you're not going to make any money doing it. So it's like you got to find a way that's viable for rentals, so the filmmaker actually sees that money back. And Vimeo is a good platform to do that.
It's unfortunate that it's a business, much like I come from the comic book, and I do a lot of comic book interviews with a lot of indie creators on Kickstarter, and it is a business, and it is a complicated business, and I think you could attest to that. I know it's slightly off topic, but it is super, super important to go when movies come out on Vimeo, to go watch them and rent them, and from just an indie standpoint, it's super important to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
The film of yours that I did see, obviously I'm excited to see Preacher 6, but was Zombie with a Shotgun. Which was, I'm not going to sit here, Kyle, and tell you that it's the greatest movie that I've ever seen, but when I watched it, I was like, obviously your creativity came out in that. So go check that movie out. And was that the one? I can't remember. You did a movie with like Roddy Piper or something, didn't you?
Yeah, that was the Chair. The chair.
Okay.
With Roddy Piper. Yeah. So that was Peter Samedi was the Chair. He's a comic book creator, and that was his graphic novel. So the Chair was based off his graphic novel. Zombie with a Shotgun is Hilton Ruiz. So that's his story. He lives in New York, and he did the web series first, and basically brought it from 6 episodes on a web series, and then I had just done the Chair, and we were talking on the phone and said, "Hey man, what are you gonna do with this?" He said, "Oh well, I'm talking to people, trying to get some financing and whatnot, and good luck, with that." And said, "Why don't you just do it, man? Like, let's just do a fundraiser and make the movie." So he's like, "Really? All right." So then we raised the money for that, doing the Kickstarters and Indiegogos and GoFundMe's and whatever it took, and so that's how that one happened.
I put the link for the trailer for Zombie with a Shotgun, which has all the links where you can watch it everywhere that it's available. In the chat.
You were just on the spot, man.
He's very good at his job.
That's the thing. Like, everyone treats me like I'm this like rage-tastic asshole. No, I'm a fucking content creator, and I'm a producer. There is no point on Kyle coming onto the show unless there is a way for people to get to it. And that's where I come in, and I will drop the link. I will tell people where to find it, because even if people hate us and they're only here for Kyle, at least now they know where to get Kyle, right?
Oh, I want to get some Kyle. So to bring us back into topic, to circle us back. So I want to ask a couple. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of guide it, and then I kind of want like Kyle, as being the industry insider, to to speak on it, but I want to start by asking Mikey a question first, and then Andrew. So the questions are going to be this, Mikey.
42.
How would you like to see? What do you think the issues are with African Americans in film, and what would you like to see?
I don't know. I'm just going to push back a little bit. I don't know that there's a problem. I think what has happened is there is a toxicity in fan groups that is unacceptable. And if we're trying to become this more better union, we have to stop being dicks all the time. And especially when it comes to art, because as a musician, someone who makes hard, heavy metal fucking music, there is a lot of fucking shit that I have to eat because I'm black. Oh, this isn't this isn't that. And then the shit has already been out, but it was under the band name and it had like the band logo as opposed to my face. And it never got any of those fucking pushbacks. So, you know what I mean? It's, as a community, we have to be better.
Caucasity.
Yeah. It's going to be consequences and repercussions.
Yeah. Fuck around with me. It's going to be consequences and repercussions.
Yeah, bitches. We as consumers, because everything's becoming less big business. Well, I mean, big business is doing well, but for the small independent people, you have to be more generous. You have to be more conciliatory and more not a dick to indie producers of things. I'm not fucking Anderson .Paak or Childish Gambino or Lamb of God. I can't fill those niches for you. Let me make what I make. If you don't like it, that's fine. But you don't have to make a fucking 13 series response video about shit that you don't like. And that has become the trend, whether it comes to big shit. And especially now that indie people are trying to get their name out there, it's become a thing for indie people. So stop fucking making response videos for indie people. It's fucking hard enough as it is. If you're not going to fucking say something nice, shut the fuck up. And I'm done.
Wow. How do you really feel? Andrew, is there that you see, and again, keep in mind, I've already mentioned the fact that there's been how many movies about the Bible, right? And pretty much any movie made before the 80s, I would say, has a pretty strong conservative bias. Recently, though, the narrative is that the right hates Hollywood, like Hollywood hates the right, I should say. I'll have Andrew or Kyle give a follow-up to this, but like as a conservative, as a moderate conservative, what are your thoughts on like Hollywood and the right-wing bias that is getting such a narrative right now? Do you think it's real, or do you think that it's Memorex?
I think parts of it are real. And I think that if somebody comes out conservative in Hollywood, they get flack for 6 months, maybe a year, you know. But
not Chris Pratt.
He got a little flack for like a month, and then it sort of dropped. And he got a little bit of, sort of, I guess, a little bit of like a punch. But you lick your bruises and you go home.
And Denzel.
Can I finish a sentence, please?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just messing with you.
I'm speaking.
But I think, you know what it is? I think that there is a little bit of it. And I do think that, unfortunately, if you're in this, you're an actor, a lot of people keep their heads down. A lot of people don't want to, do things. And also, look, certain movies just make money. And the name of the game is Hollywood. And let's be realistic. And maybe I'm wrong. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle. But a bunch of movies don't make money, or they make maybe $10 million over, their budget, which really isn't a lot. And there's not a lot on the bone left. And so to produce some of the movies that maybe are more conservative, maybe there's not an audience for it, or maybe it's too much of a risk. I mean, I come from a world where there have been more conservatives on my show, the Pop Anime Comics Lounge, in the comic world. And they all say to me, hey, man, we can't talk about this because if I'm found out, DC and Marvel are going to fire me. And these people are terrified. Whether that's true or not, that's how these people feel. And so I would imagine Hollywood would be very similar. But then you have somebody like Chuck Dixon, who wrote the Clinton Cash, graphic novel for Breitbart, and that made millions of dollars for Breitbart. And so obviously, I think that, if conservatives really wanted, they should go build their own Hollywood, and I think that they would fill that niche so easily, and I think they would do well. And so and also, as Mike was saying, look, everything is going away from big business at this point anyway. So I think that this is also going to be solved really quickly.
Ask Kevin Sorbo about his acting career.
Or Dean Cain, our two favorite people.
Oh no,
Dean
Cain. Kyle, you're
at cons. He makes more money at cons than anything else right now, and God bless him.
Oh, I would imagine Dean Cain does real good at cons.
So he started grifting to become like, he went after a different group because the conservatives weren't paying enough. So he's like, let me fleece the nerds.
These people get all that nerd money. These people make serious money. And I can explain it in like 30 seconds. They're basically, you get a sum of money as a contract guaranteed, and every autograph you sell counts against it. So if his guarantee is 30 grand, in a weekend he makes 30 grand. That's how it works. That's a
fair.
The price is wrong, bitch.
It's a fair enough dollar amount. Kyle, your response, like, do you see like a conservative bias among your peers or in the films that are being made today? Like, do you look at them as being like anti-conservative? And I'll segue that with a different question as well, if I can kind of ask you to.
Sure.
When you as an actor and a filmmaker, when you represent things like LGBT or talk about things like systemic racism, do you even view those things? Like, let's say you had a film that talked about someone who was, a victim of racism or something like that. Do you even view that as like anti-conservative?
No, and I think that's a problem. I mean, if like talking about racism is somehow anti-conservative, then I think that question says more to the problem than the actual thing. Because it shouldn't be that way at all. And I'll say this about like in actual films, I don't see like an anti-conservative thing. In people, it wasn't a problem until Trump became president, and that's when I think that like it really surfaced, and that's when like people started to come out and like. I actually left an agency that I was with because it's social media. And it's like my agent like wrote something about Islam, and it was like a right-wing talking point, about how I can't even remember what it was, but
we probably get the idea.
Yeah, I messaged her and I said, "Are you serious right now? Like with what you're putting on Facebook?" And she's like, "What?" And I said, "I don't think I can work with you anymore." And so I left the agency, because it's like, I can't work with people that are racist, whether it's like, for anyone, it's like, we got one planet here. We should all like fucking get along. And maybe I'm naive, in that, but that's what I think. But I don't see the problem in films, but definitely with people.
I will salute your way of dealing with it, because since Trump lost, and there's been some Trumpers that have somehow survived the purge of my Facebook friends list, which I might get rid of soon, because I'm just really sick of the fucking drama.
Hey, you go to me so quickly.
No, I'm getting rid of fucking Facebook. Like, I'm just sick of Facebook, because that's all it is drama.
That's true.
And at this point, I have hiccups. Like, for some reason, I can't get rid of them. Sorry, apologized. Whenever people post shit that's political and crazy, I'm like, hey, cool. Do you have a backup link so I can follow all that information? They block me.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I say, like, someone posted a thing about like a household makes $24,000 a year, their bills are such and such. It was something to the effect of the national debt. And I'm like, but you can't, like, your household can't print its own money. So why would you make that reference? And then as soon as I say that, blocked. I'm like, oh, you're not even interested in information anymore. You don't even want to be right anymore. You just want to post whatever you want to post. And because I'm your friend, I'm supposed to shut up and take it. So then that in my head, I reverse it. And I'm saying, so the things that I said, did you just ignore those because I was so wrong and terrible when I said, yay, LGBTQ plus rights, yay, Black Lives Matter, yay, such and such bill got passed? Did you just ignore that and just let it happen? You know what I mean? I'm like, are we on that side of the equation? And that makes me feel weird, right? Because it's like, are they so crazy that my rational things like, I'm glad that this happened for a group of people, almost makes them delete me. You know what I'm saying?
That's an interesting point, because like what you're talking about in a way is like, you're not talking about censoring people, but you're talking about, disassociating yourself with the views, with the drama. Right. And a lot of, I know a lot of conservatives kind of have talked about how Netflix has become woke, and, sports has become woke and all this type of stuff. Kyle, and actually I'm interested in Andrew's opinion on this too, as we'll ask you guys like 2 more questions and we'll close out. I know you got other stuff to do.
It's called sleep.
Should films like, we'll use like Gone with the Wind as an example, right? And other films that may have negative representations of either women or gay people or Native Americans, like, like The Lone Ranger and stuff like that. Some of these old John Wayne films that have very negative portrayals of Native Americans. What do we do with those films, Kyle? Like, do we keep them as a representation of the culture that was? Do they still have cinematic value? Or do we or there's another camp that just says ban them completely? Where are you at on this, and why do you, and as I think a very left-leaning guy, why do you feel that way?
Well, I think that you can't erase the past. So I don't think that you can choose to not watch things, you can choose to not celebrate things. But I think that taking things offline or whatever, because it is what it is. I mean, it's a reflection of the way that things were, so it's like, so as we grow, and do things better, then we have something to look at from the past. It's like, yeah, well, we're better than that now. That was then. And so I think that it's complicated, because it's like, because I'm not saying like, don't, get out of the way to cancel culture, and don't take my statues of these fucking racist assholes. And that's not what I'm saying.
Because isn't that the same thing? Like, there's a Confederate statue or a fucking shitty fucking classic movie. Like, are they not the same?
It's tricky, but
I have an answer to that if you want me to chime in.
Yeah, what do you think?
So I think it's also intention. When they produce, let's just put Gone with the Wind. When they put up all those, Confederate statues, they were made out of shit tin, and they were meant to, promote racism, the intimidation tactics. I don't think anybody produced Gone with the Wind to say, let's go intimidate people. They wanted to produce a movie that is a classic, wonderfully done, well thought out movie. Whether we've grown apart from that, I think it's massively different when you have a movie like Gone with the Wind, because nobody in their right mind, there was a bunch of money that was pumped into it, and it wasn't a $5,000 or $1,000 king beat up statue meant as an intimidation tactic. And I think we have to actually look at that, and that's a big difference. I mean, this is not 2 elephants in a room. This is legitimately a mouse and an elephant when we compare it. And so I understand that there's things attached to both of them, and there's emotion attached to it. And I'm not saying my response is perfect, but I don't think we're comparing 2 different things completely. And I think it's a very, very poor idea to compare them and equalize that in that sense.
No, what I'm hinting at, and I'm glad you answered it the way that you did, because I want to draw that answer out. But also I want to challenge again, if something is problematic, based on the times that it was made in. Do we keep it or do we scrap it? And I know the case-by-case basis thing is going to come up, but where is the line? So does it have to be so cinematically great that it transcends all of its racial and social boo-boos at the moment? Does it have to be so good that it supersedes those? Or because it has boo-boos, we just get rid of it?
I think it has to be, I think it has to have some merit to it. I think, it's a little bit complicated if we put, what did you mention with the, racist? No, not Gone with the Wind.
With
it was
like the John Wayne movies and stuff like that.
Lone Ranger. Something like an hour ago. Like
Lone Ranger?
No. Give me a second. It was.
Oh, you're talking about Birth of a Nation.
Yeah, Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, we can make the argument that Birth of a Nation could be considered cinematic, but I think it's if we were to get rid of, we had to choose between Gone with the Wind and Birth of a Nation, and I'm not saying we should get rid of either one of them, but I think we would pick Birth of a Nation every day of the week. So I think it's one of those things where I think you have to sort of look at the cinematic value of it and that stuff. But then I fast forward to a movie like Dirty Harry, and Dirty Harry is a bad cop, and the reason why I go to this is there's a scene, I think in the fourth one, where it's being extremely sexist, and he has a statement about a woman cop who's getting a partner to, and well, that's a social boo-boo to some degree, but are we going to get rid of Dirty Harry when it's just an action, film? I mean, it becomes, sort of complicated at that point.
Did you ever watch The Shield with Michael Chiklis and Benito?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen The Shield. Actually, I auditioned for that show.
So wait!
You could have been Michael Chiklis.
Hold on, I want to hear this. What role did you audition for? This is fucking. I have watched
just one of. I don't even remember, man. It was just like one of the probably a criminal. So yeah, just one of the day players.
You look very much like a criminal, so I would imagine. I would imagine that something. Long hair and a beard, criminal.
just
criminal. That's the bias, though. That's the bias, though. It's like
I need to ask a serious question, though, just so I understand. Is this the one where it's sort of an ex-cop is working with a real cop, and then there's 3 breakouts, or is that a different? Oh, okay.
The Shield is The Wire, but in LA. And it's like this elite gang narcotics unit of cops in Farmington, and it follows them and their rises and falls. Yeah, it's good. It's a fucking fantastic show. Yeah. But at the same time, it kind of glorifies shitty cops.
Yeah. And so they started differently than they ended in The Shield too, because like in the beginning, they started like kind of glorifying them, and then they showed they were shitty.
Spoiler,
right? So,
spoiler alert.
But Kyle, your thoughts on what Andrew's comments were with, now that you've had some time to reflect, what do we do with a lot of that of that cinema? Like, is it do you cancel the Lone Ranger, or do we use it as like what Andrew said, like as long as you're not celebrating it? Or it might have been you who said that, then you can use it for its cinematic value and as a representation of the time.
I think you got to take things for what they are. They're snapshots of time. And to get rid of snapshots in time, it's like it's not because you don't. Where you came from when you can see where you were. And I think that like all of the awakening that's happening now, it's like, it's a reflection of because of where we were. So it's like you have to talk about where we were so that you can know where you are. So I think that you don't want to like get. It's tricky, but I don't think you can throw things away like that, because then you don't have the where you were part of it.
Let me ask one real quick last question to Andrew real quick. And Mikey actually had an interested in your opinion here too. Do you get upset when they recast or change comic book characters? Like, make them a different race or a woman or anything like that?
No, because it's fucking fantasy. No, it's not real. No, it's not a docu-fucking-mentary. No, I don't get mad. I'm so pissed off that they fucking had Denzel Washington as Malcolm X. They should have had the real Malcolm X. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's what these people fucking sound like to me. Like, it's imaginary. Calm down. Go ahead, Andrew.
I mean, if it's well done, I don't have a problem with it.
Here we go. Here we go.
No, seriously. I'll explain. I thought that when they did Jane Foster as female Thor, it was fucking awesome. It was phenomenal. Like, I read that book and I'm like, oh my God, Jason Aaron just slayed some dragons. Holy shit. I read Zenescope. They have a female Robin Hood. It's dope as fuck. She's got like a magical eye that it makes her aim her arrows. You have a female Van Helsing. You have some serious awesome shit. But then again, I don't want a female Superman. I want Supergirl. So, and look, at the same time, like, I love Static Shock as a character.
Superhero, Static Shock. Bum, 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 bum. Superhero. That was my
You've just become best friends with Mikey.
And the way I see it is that if it's done great, then I'm dope with it. But if you do a shitty job with it, it's going to be a shitty book.
Wouldn't you have a problem with it anyway, regardless of whether or not they recast the character, if it sucks?
Like, I would, to some degree. In comics, it's a little bit different because if you have the female version, but you still have the male version, it's not that big of a deal. But if you killed off the male version and replaced it with a woman for the sole purpose saying we just want to drive sales and it's a shitty book, that's when I got a problem.
It's fantasy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, that's our inner chauvinist shining through. Because we are making the excuse that it doesn't make literary sense that the guy who can fly faster than the speeding bullet is now female. Like, think about what we're arguing for. We don't win this. We sound like asses every time we fight this.
I don't know.
Let it go. Just let it go. But then you have your favorite version. Like, I can't be mad about the 2022 Bulls because my favorite Bulls are the Jordan Bulls that won the first three-peat. Like, I can't hold on to shit from so long ago and pretend that that's the only thing that's true. There are tons of things that are true. Two things can be true at the same time. Wouldn't you say that?
Yes, they are. And all right. So look, all right, we got to wrap up. So we're going to, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate everybody. I'd actually like to, this is probably something we need to flush out more. First of all, Kyle, you've been fantastic. We're going to play one more game with Kyle here. Andrew's already played this game, so I'm
not dead yet. The establishment's not coming after me because we all know how that
went. So we're gonna play a game with Kyle. It's called Prank One, Marry One, Snap One. Okay, so you're gonna prank call someone, you're gonna marry someone, and you're gonna snap someone because we can't kill them in real life on the podcast. But obviously, it's the Avengers snap. So.
That's not what you asked me.
Yes.
That is against.
No, yes, it is. It's exactly what we asked you.
Saying the F word is against terms of service when it regards other people, and so is the K word in reference to Snap. So we can't. Right.
We're protecting our license agreement with YouTube.
Yeah, we don't want to break any laws by playing under the game.
So, Mikey,
not coming after me anytime soon.
Mikey,
I'm Jewish though, so it's all right.
Oh, of course it is. Mikey, you get the first one. Who is your three choices? Who's Kyle's three choices? Or choice one, I should say.
Danae Guerrera.
All right. Do you know who that is?
It's Michonne from The Walking Dead, the head Inkoya from the Dora Milaje.
She's smoking hot.
Okay.
With the bald head or with hair.
All right. So that's your first one. You know who that is. Okay. Andrew, you can go ahead and hit the second one.
Sasha Banks. I don't know if you know who Sasha Banks is.
All right, let me pull up a picture of Sasha Banks.
Who is Sasha Banks?
She's a wrestler.
Of course she is.
All right, Kyle has to know who it is, though.
Okay. No. I know who that is. So I would
for the listening audience, let me
you gotta have one more. Okay, so you have Michonne from The Walking Dead.
Let me pull up the picture of Sasha Banks for the people. There you go. There's Sasha.
All right, always bringing in the wrestling.
There it is. There she is. Okay, there's Sasha.
All right, and I'm going to give you because her daughter played Scarlett Johannsen's Black Widow character in the new Black Widow movie. Oh God, and I'm forgetting her name right now. From from Resident Evil.
Kate Blanchett?
No, that's Underworld. Milena Jokovic.
Oh, Mila Jokovic?
Yeah, Mila Jokovic.
Are you talking about Lilu Dallas multipass?
Yes, exactly. I passed on the freeway.
We need a fucking Lilu Dallas multipass fucking drop for sure.
All right, so assuming you know how all three of those people are, Kyle, you're going to prank one, you're going to marry one, and you're going to snap one. Go.
All right, so to the first one, I'm going to say snap one. So we'll go with Mila Jovovich. I'm going to go prank one, and then the wrestler's got to be marry one.
Okay, so you've snapped Michonne.
No, he snapped yours, not mine. He pranked mine. He snapped yours.
Oh, okay. All right. So he pranked mine. He pranked yours. He snapped mine. He snapped Mila, and he is marrying Sasha Banks. So,
but there's a reason. There's a reason for the prank one, though, and I'll tell you this real quick.
Because we can't say the F word, because that's rude to say to women. It's very misogynistic.
You can make it whatever you want. You can use it as proxy for the F word, or you can use it as an actual prank call. It's you get to choose. So, but you've chosen already. So what's your justification for your misogyny?
All right. So actually, I was at a party once, and this was a long time ago, and she was there with Donovan, and it was Donovan, like the son of Donovan Leach, or no, Donovan, the singer, the 70s singer. So
who was there?
Mellow Yellow, Mila Jovovich.
Oh, yeah.
And Donovan were at this party, and they were like hanging out, talking together and whatnot, and I actually was driving a Hyundai Excel at the time, and they were having like some car problems, so I ended up driving them home in my Hyundai Excel. So that's my Mila story, and she's super cool.
Jovovich.
And for that reason, you snap her. That's wonderful of you.
Thank you.
Mila Jovovich. Jovovich is
yes, and it's funny because when I was watching Black Widow, I was the little girl. I was like, man, that looks like the girl from Resident Evil. And then they mentioned later that's her daughter. I was like, holy shit. So, Andrew, where can the people find your shit online?
Oh, you could bother me in about 4 or 5 places. So obviously you can bother me on Facebook at Pop Anime Comics, and a lot of cool stuff's up there. A lot of interviews is up there. 2 just today are just up there. I'm also on YouTube under Pop Anime Comics. I'm on Twitch under Pop Anime Comics. I also have the Pop Anime Comics Lounge, which is on iTunes and anywhere where you get your podcasts, so you can check that out.
We can go lay down with Andrew.
Yeah, you can just like lounge
have
out,
have a little white wine.
That's the plan. That's the
plan. A
plan.
little bubbly.
And then
pull your
obviously
pull your nipple out, maybe.
And then you could check out my website, which is popanimecomics.com, and then you can find my eBay store, which is Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. And I got a lot of cool stuff coming, and got big plans in the next 6 to 8 months. Something's really cool going to be coming out.
His glasses and his headphones will be for sale on eBay.
I got the exclusive now. I'll sign them too, right?
If somebody sends me signed glasses, I'm fighting them. Like, where did you sign it? If there's no thick parts on
right over the lens.
So yeah, I can't even fucking use them.
All right. Son of a football player, actor, and filmmaker, friend of the late Roddy Piper.
Son of
Kyle
Devin Hester. Son of Devin Hester.
Yes. Where? Oh, that's right. That's Uncle Devin. He calls him Unc.
Uncle Devin.
Where do we find you and all your stuff? And tell us about which movie of yours would you recommend them go see? The ones that are out there right now.
Well, I would say, definitely the one that I would recommend is not out yet, which is Preacher 6. But you can follow that on Twitter, just like Preacher 6, all one word, spelled out. The 6 is spelled out. You can find that on Twitter. But definitely go see Zombie with a Shotgun and The Chair. They're both free on Tubi and Amazon Prime, which means they're not making any money. But you can see it for free and enjoy it and leave a comment, because that always helps. You can find me on Twitter, Kyle Hester. Kyle D. Hester is what it comes up as. But if you look up Kyle Hester, I will come up. And also, you can find me on Patreon, which is just look up Kyle Hester there. And also, because I'll be doing some good stuff there, some behind the scenes stuff and whatnot. And I would say that those are the places.
Are you going to have a screening party?
You know what? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with COVID. You know, I mean, things are kind of crazy right now. So hopefully.
All right. You know, where are you? Are you in the LA area?
Yeah, I am like in the middle of Hollywood right now.
Okay. I'm in Carson. You and I are going to have to grab a beer.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Yeah, let's do that. We talked about that before, but I was in Bakersfield at the time, and now I'm closer. So
right on.
Awesome. And I'll be in his next film as the evil villain.
Do not hire him, please. But if you need somebody to make beats or do the soundtrack, I've already done a soundtrack for a movie. Did I tell you that, Dutch? I did that before. Nope, and then the movie never ended up being made after I fucking storyboarded fucking 80 something scenes. And it never happened. I was like, oh, this is why people hate Hollywood.
Instead, he's here with me.
I'm stuck with Dutch. Help!
So there you go. You can work for Kyle. Kyle will hire you 100%. Mikey, you have something to say about us, don't you?
We suck.
That's true.
No, not that. You were talking about the other thing. Right. There's a conspiracy from the Illuminati. So
have you lost your damn mind?
Absolutely. Corn Pop was a bad dude. If you guys like what we do and you want to support us, by all means, go to patreon.com/digonamerica. We are independent media. There's a lot of people who have a lot bigger channels than us. Go to our Patreon, throw us $1 a month. It helps. If everybody who watches the video throws us $1, it helps us get new equipment. It helps us pay for advertising. It helps us get in front of more eyes. And if you are not in a financial situation to monetarily help the show, by all means, if you're on any of the podcatchers, give us a 5-star review if you can. Say how great it is. Do not curse. I've learned this. Do not curse in your this show is fucking awesome, because then they just discard your review. So give us a 5-star profanity-free review on your favorite podcatcher. That helps with the algorithm. Share and leave comments and all that good stuff on the videos that you missed, because again, that helps us with the algorithm and gets us in front of new people so that we can impact more people and hear other viewpoints. So,
and what will we do when we get to $100?
At $100, thank you, Dutch. 1/3 of our Patreon money is going to charity. So whether it's Wounded Warriors or the John Ritter Foundation, Doctors Without Borders, we have several charities that we have lined up that we're ready to give money to. We're kind of giving to some of them already, but it would be nice to be like, yo, this is from Dig on America and its followers. This is from all of us. Here is a little chunk of cash, right? And we'd love to do that every month, but we need you guys to help us get to that first goal of $100. So patreon.com/digonamerica. Help us help other people.
There you go. And that'll do it for today. So thank you to the extraordinary Kyle Hester and the very mediocre Andrew Mecca Davis. We love you guys. Thank you for joining the show. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. We will be here next week again. Same bat time, same Preacher 6 channel.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mikey family!
Oh,
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
And we're fucking out of here. Where's the fucking thing at? I lost it. There it is. Boom.
Bye.